Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to my weekly Node-RED development livestream, back after a couple of weeks off. Here with an hour or so of Node-RED development, whatever that may entail. So if it's your first time watching, do stick around. It's an hour or so of whatever comes up, sometimes planned, sometimes not. It's generally good fun. So do say hi in the chat, do leave a comment, do like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. But I don't do it for the subscriptions, I do it because I enjoy it. So who have we got? So see Softy2K, Michelle, Bobby Tables, hello to you all. What are we up to tonight? Well, Node-RED 3.0 beta release is kind of overdue. I'd notionally kind of hoped to get it done last week, but all goodwill in the world. There's just too many little loose ends to tidy up, and other things got in the way of me doing that. So we're going to try and get it done this week. The sooner we get the beta out, the better. Sooner we can get a wider audience of people trying out some of the new stuff. We get some good feedback, and then the full 3.0 release will be all the better for it. So, so we're not planning on any significant development work tonight. Not really the right time to start development work. Really, it's a case of just going around, doing a bit of figuring out what do we need to get done for the beta. Having said no development work, there is a piece of development work which I always kind of forget that we introduced a rod I made for my own back, as they say, and that is, of course, these days you can take a tour of the new release, and this wouldn't be the first release where I'm thinking, right, we've got a bunch of stuff lined up, we're all ready to go, and then I think, oh yes, the tour guide. This feature we added to walk people through some of the new features, that takes time to sort out. So that's one of the outstanding bit of development work I need to do. But it's also a nice chance to sort of take stock of what are the actual new features in this release, and work through the tour guide aspect of it, and all that sort of stuff. That said, there's also, you can see we've got a whole bunch of stuff in needs documenting. Not holding up the beta for that, but there's still plenty of stuff to do, activity for before the 3.0 final release is done. Still got a couple pull requests here, and I bet, because I haven't been keeping as up to date, there's a few others. I'm just ticking. Steve has, I have to say, been doing some great work. That I think is, oh no, I've gone. That's against master, so I'll leave that for the moment. Done. Oh, I've lost track now. Yeah, I'm going to stick all of those in the 3.0 planning board. Just wait for that to churn. Okay, so all that stuff has appeared. Yeah, okay, so in progress has suddenly got a lot longer. But actually most of this stuff just needs reviewing. So let's start tonight by reviewing some of these pull requests. In fact, this one I have already approved, so we can merge it. We're switching over to the Monaco editor to being the default editor now in Node-RED 3.0. Users for new installs of Node-RED will pick up Monaco by default. You'll be able to revert back to Ace if you want. That was always the plan, if Monaco proved to be stable, and by all accounts it has, thanks to the great work Steve's done. So that's all good. There was a follow-up task on this one, which again Steve has also done the work on. So we're going to merge this pull request into dev. Yep. And then this is a pull request against Node-RED admin, the command line tool, because we added the Node-RED init command a couple releases ago that walk you through setting up your settings file. Well, so we just had to do a matching change to the template settings file it uses, and also change the default of the options it asks. So that all looks good to me. Oops, done. We can merge that one. And in fact, whilst we're in Node-RED admin, we're just going to stay here for a couple of minutes. Add Dracula theme. Is this... I've completely overlooked this one. So Dracula, I assume, is one of the themes inside theme collection. Let me just... Go on, you're in the chat, you can tell me. Theme collection. Yes, dark Dracula, midnight red, OLED, solarized dark and light. Dracula, midnight red, yeah. Nothing wrong with that. How long would that be? That's been owned since October last year. I am sorry for the delay on that one. Always, nudge us if there's things outstanding that ought to be easy to go in. Bump a couple of packages to latest. What's this? Okay. Some currency updates. Right, what we're going to do is we might actually supersede this one. We are going to go into Node-RED admin. Make this bigger so you can see. Yes, tonight it is just a lot of busy work, really, is the polite way of describing it. Just lots of chores. So let's just run an npm install. npm outdated. So yeah, Axios we want to upgrade to 0.27. Let's Node-RED admin. Steve says, have I tried hitting dot to do a PR in the browser? Yeah, so I know dot in GitHub takes you to their code stuff. I've not. I'm not going to do it right now. So Axios wants to be 0.27. In part because I want to be able to run tests locally as well. So Minimist wants to be 126. Mocha 922. So I'm just eyeing up these changes. For example, this Synon one you can see has gone. I know it's a development dependency, but it has jumped major versions, so I'm not going to do that right now. Whereas Synon test is just a minor, it's a fixed level thing. So I have no issue picking that. Oh no, 313. That all looks good. So just npm install and just verify that that's cleaned up the, zero vulnerabilities. Awesome. Then what do we want to do? We want to check what's the current published version. 223 is the current published version, so we're going to bump this to 224. And there is a change log, but we can run git changelog 2, which is a script of mine, which goes and grabs all the pull requests and their titles and their authors and their issue numbers. So 224 has those two in, and update dependencies, because we always like to update the dependencies. Do that. We're going to commit those two. Oh, untracked files. Yep, no, we can live with that being untracked. bump dependencies for 224. Come on. Oh, try again. Bump dependencies for 224. Right. Grind. That's done. Let's just push that. That's pushed. So in here, no, not there. In here, we'll create a new release. 2.2.4. 2.2.4. Grab the changelog, paste it in, publish the release. That's done. Then come in here and we can run npm publish. And to run npm publish, it needs my one-time password, which means me typing in dum. Oh, which is screen shared, so you can all see that. Yeah. But that code's now expired. Yeah, I didn't think of that. You know what? I forgot that would echo it on the screen as I typed in my one-time password. Yeah, in theory, that's where I switch to that screen when I'm typing passwords in. But anyway, one time and it's used, and it has since we're now well expired. We're now on to 2 more codes since that one. So yeah, note to self. npm echoes the one-time password onto the screen when you type it in. But that's now published, 224. So back in the Node-RED repo, when we come to update dependencies, we will update Node-RED admin to pick up 224. And I guess strictly speaking, that shouldn't have been a fixed release. Yeah. That shouldn't have been a fixed release. That should, this is the problem, going a bit too quick, but it's not end of the world. It doesn't break anything. It just changes the default behavior of that script, but hey, I won't lose sleep over that. But technically speaking, that should have been version 3, and okay. A bit of publish remorse going on in me now. Went a bit too quick just to get it done. Not to worry. We'll live. So that's that pull request done. Let's move on. What else have we got? So debug count. So this was one I've not really paid any attention to. Oh, blimey. Why are there so many? That. So what is going on here? So files changed, 2 commits. Oh, okay. I think the original pull request was against master, so it pulled in a whole load of other commits, but it's since been rebased. So let's have a look. So the idea here. Oh no, I'm not getting into this one. I need to go back into the original discussion and see what that actually is doing. Here's one from Steve. I'm assuming this one's ready. Let me just scan through. Unless you shout at me in the chat, Steve, I will have a look at this. So this is adding support for HTTP static, the setting which lets you point to a local folder. This does 2 things I'm hopeful to see. One is HTTP static root. So by default, HTTP static, all the files will get served from the root URL. HTTP static root, like we have equivalent settings for admin root and node root, lets you actually specify the root path of the URL for the static content, which is goodness. So, for example, serve up everything in c://temp at the root. Okay, so you're logging some interesting stuff. Okay, I want to have Yeah, okay. It's always bits like that then. Okay, I've now got to think, does that logging fit in our style? Okay, not to worry. But the other interesting thing here is, as well as supporting a root, it now supports multiple static folders, and it will mount them all from static root, or and I'm looking, I do wonder, does it support just an array of strings? So in this case, could HTTP static just be c/temp and c/temp? Yeah, okay, so that's one thing I want to have a quick look at. Or you can specify individual roots for each one. Array of strings is implicitly supported. Good man, Steve, good man. Yeah, so there's basically lots of flexibility, and you can combine them. So you can set static root to be like a global root path, and then each of these roots goes under that static root. So yeah, plenty of flexibility and all that. Files changed. So here's where we set up HTTP static before. This will now, I guess. So that does just the logging. Oh, okay, so we did log it before. Now it is logging it, but the format's slightly different. And then here we are in the main red entry point. So here, this is okay, so it sets HTTP static root to a default if it's not set, and formats it properly. Ensures we are handling an array, loops over them, and then yeah, if it's a string, push it as an object. If it's an object and it looks right, push it on. Good. Subroot. Okay, yeah. Okay, that all looks good. Then come in here. So this is where we actually set up the paths. Okay, so we make sure we don't duplicate serving. How do I set up? Yeah. So so you still have static auth, but again, it's rudimentary and not very satisfactory, but it's what we have. And then use this route. Cool, that all looks good. And then static, okay, you've added it in here. So again, we will need to remember to add this to Node-RED admin as well. When we change this default settings file, we need to make sure we update the one in Node-RED admin, which is a bit of a drag, but because we have to template it, there's not an easy way to have a single one that gets shared between the two projects. And yeah, you've been consistent in using home/null/stuff in the examples, which is good to be consistent. We still get an amazing number of users who are saying, but I don't have a directory called /home/null. Yeah. What can you do? Yeah, so we can, to your point, Steve, we can add this to Node-RED admin and bump it into version 3.0, which is what I should have done rather than rush through like I did just now. I just got all excited about actually doing something. But yeah, if you could make a note to just copy this block over into Node-RED admin, I would appreciate it. But otherwise, looks good to me. Cool. So we will hit approve on that, and we'll merge it. Good. On to the next. Let's go. Well, on to the next, but I'll move some of these back to needs documenting because that's still the case. Let's have a look. Oh, in fact, this is one I raised. So this is fixing. This is the one we did on the live stream a while ago. The auto name generator. We opened the can of worms of some bugs of it doing the auto name generation of nodes when we didn't want it to. Well, I finally sort of wrapped my head around it's a bit of a hacky fix for it. The key thing being, how do we distinguish between a node being dragged on versus a node being copy and pasted? And the hack was, say for the debug node, if we set the debug node's default name property to something unlikely to be naturally occurring in the world, like underscore, and arguably I could have picked something more random, then when we do the onAdd, we check to see is the name underscore, which means this is a freshly added node with all of its defaults. Then we set the name to blank and we invoke the name generator. Whereas if it's a copy and paste and the name is already blank, then it won't do that because the name is blank. It hasn't been set to that default. So Steve, I think, had a couple comments on this one I noticed. So, 2 small points. I don't think the link cool should get a default name since it's preferable to have it inherit the name from its linked LinkedIn node. Yes, I agree. And should the function node be auto-named? This way, if a fault occurs in a function node, it is named. Both very good points. So let's go do something about that. So git checkout fix, what's the branch called? Fix name generator. Then let's go have a look at, let's sort out the link node first. Link.html. So in here, we want the link cool node. Here it is. So I'm going to revert the logic. So I keep its name to be default to blank. And it will have an onAdd, which this one's onAdd invokes the name generator, and we don't want it to do that. So in fact, we can get rid of the whole onAdd function. So that's the link cool node reverted. And do we think it's good, useful for the function node? On balance, I think so. So here's where we register the function. So we're going to set the default function to underscore. Now there is part of me thinking there is clearly a risk that underscore, there's going to be a user out there who doesn't the default function node name trigger the linter? I don't think so. Not quite sure what you're referring to there, Bobby Tables. But here, if we set the name to default, and then when it comes down to, well, we won't have an onAdd. We will in a moment. There we are. So we're going to pinch the debug nodes onAdd. And All right. So yes, bow tables. You're right. There is a lint rule that warns you if that says you shouldn't have unnamed function nodes. So this is kind of fixing it before it's a problem, in that this will ensure your function nodes all have unique names, which is what the linter rule is trying to get at. And if you clear the function name, then the lint rule will kick in again. So yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to bike shed this. I think underscore default is good enough. And I will go and change the debug node to match, and then we'll go and change the link nodes to match. Plus, that's easier to search for if someone's looking at the source code saying, what does that mean? Like right here, I've got to now go and find, oh, wrong file, link.html. If I go find all underscores, that's those two. Not finding any more, so have I put it, yeah, put it into single quotes here. Okay, so that's link node, debug node, function node, doing its thing. We will just run that just to verify it's working as we expect it to. Just wait for that to build. Quick scroll through Twitter. Oh good, Elon Musk has bought Twitter. Been confirmed. Well, subject to the board, stockholder approval. Right. Drag on the function node. Yeah. Copy and paste it. It does the right thing. There we are. That's good. Link cool node. Yeah. Its name has been left alone. And link in 1, link in 2, link out 1, link out 2, and debug 10, because I've already got lots of debug nodes. Right, I'm happy with that. So let's yeah, push that up. What have we done? Remove name generation from link cool and add to function. Dun, 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 dun. Oop. Push that up. There we are. Ooh. And we've got a conflict. Where have we got conflict? Why have we got a conflict? Where was the conflict? Oh, the scrolling on this page never quite works. Yes, we want that on add, because that's the on. Yeah, that's the mark resolved. Good. Commit merge. Good. I was always alarming when I do those merges. I get the notification that I've just merged 66 commits into this branch. Well, all I've done is just rebased. It's just been a rebase it into dev, so it's up to date. So there are only 3 new commits. Yeah, so that's all good to go. Steve, I'll say if you're happy with those changes, then please do merge at your leisure. Let's keep going. Fix importing external module from Node-RED module. This was a bug in the forum a couple of days ago. If you have a Node-RED node module that you also want to provide a library to the function node in using the external module functionality, it wouldn't work. And it wouldn't work because of this code path where when the function node tries to require it, it says, "Oh, I know this. This is a module I've already loaded. Go down this code path," and that code path doesn't quite do the right thing because it's a scenario we've never. This is the first time anyone's ever tried doing this, so it just needed a bit of a tweak to how we generate the path to what we want, the argument we pass to import. So it's a proper file URL that makes it happy. And I know Steve has tested it and it's all working. So let's just merge that and get on. And delete the branch. Oh yes, delete the branch. Let's go back here. So Diagnostics, I'm going to skip for the moment, although I'm well aware, Steve, that's one I need to come back to. Yeah, okay, so we've got quite a short list. This guy here, add support for property validation message. This is a nice one. Oh, look at that, Steve has just merged it. If we watch, look, it just disappears of its own accord. But, well, not quite of its own accord. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, add support of property validation message. So this is a nice feature from Hitachi around when you validate the properties of a node. Previously, all a node could do is it just returned true or false as to whether a property was valid or not. Which meant all the editor could do is just say something is wrong with a particular property. With this feature, it allows a node to provide not just true or false. It's able to return a string error message so that the editor is able to provide more useful information. So if there's an actual, it can actually tell you what the problem is, which is super nice. There was some difficulties around making this properly backward compatible, simply because this validate function, as I said, previous versions of Node-RED just expect that to return true for it's valid, false if it's not valid. If it started returning true for valid and a string for not valid, the problem is a string is a true-like thing. So existing versions of Node-RED would receive that string and handle it and treat it like a true value. So rather than treating it as a invalid property, it would treat it as valid, which would mean it would break property validation in older versions of Node-RED. So we had to find a way around it. And in fact, the way around it is previous versions of Node-RED, this validate function would take just one argument, v, the value. if a node defines a validate function with 2 arguments, v the value and an options object, then that tells, well, and if node red passes in a value on that second property, that tells the node it's running in a version of node red that knows how to handle strings as error messages. So the validate function can contain a little bit of logic saying, if opt exists, then return the error description, otherwise return false. And there's a bunch of other features. So when defining the defaults, you can actually provide a label for the property. So sometimes node properties can be quite obscure property names. They can be quite terse and short. Well, they can now provide a label to give a more human understandable meaning to that property. And yeah, and a bunch of other stuff. So it means we can do some nice things. So actually, if a field is shown to be invalid, we can actually now provide a tooltip rather than just highlight it as invalid. Provide a tooltip. Now, this actually needs. I had a whole bunch of feedback on it a couple of weeks ago, and I need to page this back into memory to finish my review. One general comment, which we've fed back to them. So, yes, this is adding the ability for node properties, the node validator, to provide error messages. In this pull request, it changes how many? 32 files. Because not only does it add the functionality to do it, it also goes into all of the core nodes and adds in all these properties. From a review standpoint, this pull request then contains an API change plus about 30 files using the new API. But if we haven't reviewed the API, and if we have to change that API, then it's made a lot of work for themselves, because if we need to tweak the API, they've now got to fix the implementation as well. Plus it makes the review much harder, because rather than let us focus on just reviewing the change functionality, we've got to now also review every single node. So as a little tip and feedback for when you're raising pull requests, just have a little think about one pull request or two, and it would be far neater to update the core API and maybe 1 or 2 nodes to show it in practice. And once that's been signed off and merged, then go through and do the other 30 odd files, because it's you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's reviewing the change sometimes. And whilst it might be a set of changes you've been working on, so they all make perfect sense to you because you've sort of built them up, when someone's seeing it for the first time and they're presented with 32 files of changes, that can be a little daunting. Right, where were we? So debug count we looked at, and I want to dig into property validation messages. I want to dig into a bit. Let's have a look at this one, because I thought this was fairly close, but there were so there was some comments from Dave on. So this is updating the file node to have a typed input. It's where are they? Storage. Write file. So at the moment, file name is just a plain input. And there had been some confusion in the community that someone in the community thought they had to write message.filename in order for message.filename to be plumbed in, whereas the opposite's true. You leave it blank and it will use message.filename. So Steve's done the work to change this into a typed input, so it's more explicit when it's a message property versus just the string file name, which is goodness. And yeah, there's a little bit of work. I mean, yeah, it's whilst we're changing it around, it's worthwhile getting consistent. So there's no placeholder there. There is a placeholder here. Placeholders are, to be honest with you, Steve, that placeholder is entirely redundant because it's exactly the same text as is there. So likewise, in fact, let me just have a look. This is where I'm going to, so we set the name placeholder. I would not lose sleep if rather than add a placeholder to make them consistent, get rid of particularly as I don't know. Maybe it is useful. Or maybe it's more useful if the placeholder isn't a file name because that's the text there. But when it's a string type, the placeholder should be path to file or, I don't know. Is there something else that's more useful than just repeating this label? Otherwise, it's just a lot of text. That would be the only thing I would suggest on that one. But yeah, good stuff. So a small tweak in that and there. So diagnostics. Let's have a gander at this because this one's gone around the houses a little in terms of scope and what we want it to do. So it all comes back to add admin endpoint that provides diagnostic info. So it would be nice to have an admin endpoint that captures some basic useful information about the system to help with debugging. Now, easy to say, if you are interested and want to read through a lot of discussion around just how much information and what's suitable information to expose, because we've got to balance the convenience of gathering a lot of information versus the security of gathering a lot of information. And where do you draw the line between sorry, I've lost the pull request. Let's reopen it. Where do you draw the line in terms of what's that convenience versus just leaking information that you perhaps don't want to leak? So Steve, to his credit, has done a lot of work on this. So it adds adds a /diagnostics endpoint to the admin API. It can be enabled via the settings file, both in terms of the admin endpoint and whether the UI shows it as well. I can't remember where we ended up on defaults for those. It adds an action show system info in the editor, if it's enabled in the editor, which opens up the system info dialog with both the raw JSON, so you can just copy and paste it, looks good, and then a download button, so just downloads it as a file. Yeah, you can get that as a file. And then what else are you going to show us? I think that's the loop. And format JSON. I was trying to remember what the third. I knew there was a third button, but I couldn't remember what it was. So yeah, that's what this does. There are a few open questions around how much we want it to export, how much we want it to again, we don't want to necessarily overthink this. If we can I'd rather get the basics in place and then iterate on it. So let's just look through the changes. Adds another file into the editor build, diagnostics.js. This is in the admin API. Just provides as in the runtime admin API, get report, which lets you pick a level, and basic is the only one so that gives us space in the future to do more in-depth ones. Then invokes, if it's diagnostic ops. Hold on. Yeah, so I don't think I think we aren't going to expose level in v3. That might be something we add later, but the scope is always basic. And then here we have the core runtime, so a new diagnostics module or component of the... Oh no, sorry, this is the admin API, the HTTP admin API. Diagnostic get report. So /diagnostics needs permission diagnostics.read. So of course the option is open to modify what permission that is. So you could have certain users who don't have this ability, or if there was a more in-depth diagnostic report, it could be a special permission that's needed to be explicitly granted to a user type of thing. Anyway, where are we now? Here we're in the editor, red dot diagnostics module. Probably the right way of doing it. So if diagnostics.ui is set to false, explicitly set to false, then bail out. Otherwise, register core show system info. Fair enough, which just invokes the show. So the show makes an HTTP request back to the diagnostics URL. Formats it. Then it fires up the JSON editor, built-in JSON editor. We should add in internationalization for that bit of text. Yeah, all these bits of text we'll need to add in. We can tidy that up after the beta. I'm sure Hitachi won't mind. But does need doing. Then some modifications to the JSON editor. So this read-only flag, which seems to be passed through a lot. Yeah, this is getting passed in a lot. And then here, finally, if it's read-only, then add that class to it. Normally, try not to use unnamespaced classes. So typically we'd use red-ui- just to remove any potential for clashes. I know there are a couple of places where we don't, but then if it's read-only, then we don't do any of the event handling on it. Fair enough. Yeah, likewise down here. Although there is something to be said, if we're read-only, then just don't add the click event handler at all. Yeah, I would, unless I'm missing something, I wouldn't, unless it's, well no, because you've added it before the stop propagation and stuff, so it's not, nothing's going to fall back, so Anyway, yeah, some click handlers are needed for expansion. So, and then what are we doing? If it's not read only, okay, yeah, that's all stuff. JSON buttons. So this is a new thing you've added so that you can specify buttons to the editor, I believe, from what you'd said. And then what's this? Yeah, okay. Right, so in the core runtime diagnostics, so I guess this is the stuff that's doing all the work to gather information about the platform. And here you can see it where it actually gathers the report. Whole bunch of common settings, and you'll notice again for anything that's vaguely like admin auth, we will just return in the diagnostic report whether it's set or unset, rather than its actual value. Again, that good example of trying to balance the, obviously we don't want to expose all the admin setup or the auth setup, but it's worthwhile in an info dump knowing it has been set to something. So if it's an issue that it could be related, at least it answers the question, it has been set. And you can be a bit more, if you have to then go back and say, okay, what have you set it to? At least it's a bit more of a hint. And yeah, here was an admin level which delves into far more info about the platform, CPU information, network interface information. It felt, yeah, I felt uneasy getting into that much detail. Yeah, and then just plumbing in through the various APIs. Plumbing through. I assumed all these load diffs were going to be huge because GitHub had hidden them, but no, I think it just was bottom of a long list. Ooh, should that be there? I don't think it should. Okay, so we're going to enable it by default, and in the UI by default. You and your Visual Studio type annotations, which we don't do anywhere else. Yeah, would like to just, there's some formatting stuff going on here. I think it needs to be a bit more in line with what else we have. Yeah, cancel that. I'll got some tweaks to make on that, but and then some tests. Always good to see tests, more tests, good tests, well done tests. Cool. All right, I'm just going to submit that comment because we can. I can commit it now. Get that debugger statement out of the way for Steve. Yeah, okay. I'm not quite ready to sign off on that one. I want to spend a bit more time playing with it, which is far less interesting, I think, for people watching. But it looks good. Then, yeah. So we've got, a decent tranche of stuff. Let's just run. go back to the, no, not master. Go back to the dev branch. Go and pull just to get the few bits have been merged. So if I run git change log 2. So this is the list of all the pull requests that have gone in since 2.2.2. Some of these will be in the master branch, so will come out in 2.2.3, which we will do a 2.2.3 because there is some stuff in there we want. And then I'm going to have to go through and just deduplicate any of these pull requests that were actually in master branch. But if I bring up so this is our list of headline features for 3.0. So we have editor, runtime, nodes. So let's just do a quick first pass through. So fixed name auto generator. Well, that's editor, but it's also fixing something that was added. So somewhere in here there should be the where I originally added there. So allowed no name to be auto-generated when added. So in this instance, it doesn't really make sense to have two separate entries in the changelog. So I'll list them both because people don't need to know that I fixed something I added because let's just say I did it right first time. As far as the release is concerned, fix importing external module from Node-RED module. That's a runtime thing. Add support for multiple static paths with optional static root. That's runtime. Set Monaco as the default coder as editor. MQT payload auto parsing improvements. That stays in nodes. Store external token when authentication if provided. That's a runtime thing. OAuth OpenID with keycloak logout. Yeah, I need to. That pull request description didn't really meet our preferred format. Not to worry, I can always tidy it up in post. So these are all node ones. Allow admin auth to auto login users. That's one we did on this live stream a while ago. Update Monaco to v0.33. Add UI for HTTP request node headers. Node thing. Autocomplete improvements ... We will just tidy that up. Autocomplete improvements. But I do need to go and remind myself what those improvements are and make sure they are documented. Let inject optionally fire at start in only at time. Yeah, I know what that meant. Add a tooltip to debug sidebar message reveal full path to node. It's sort of nodes, but it's also the editor. We'll put it under editor. Fix down arrow triggering menu in search box. That's an editor thing. Add Japanese translations for 3.0. That is predominantly editor stuff. Merge master dev. That one goes. Dynamic link cool node. We'll put that top of the list of nodes. Add feature continuous search tools. Yes. Good one. Oh, junctions. Oh, I see there are features that I worked on ages ago. That was Christmas, wasn't it, when I did junctions? Fix PR split wire with link nodes. And then here, okay. So here's another good example. 2 pull requests, it's the same feature. And we will double up. Keep the accounting. Copy node props. Now that's not a very good title. Quick question, will there be any changes to the config nodes tab? No, the changes are what you see on this list right now. And those pull requests we've been looking at. So yes, I would like to spend some time on the config node tab in the editor, but yeah, it's not something I plan to have time to look at. So if there are particular things you're interested in, please do let me know. Add copy button to properties viewer. Yeah, that's what the copy node props one, isn't it? Node properties table. Let's go with that. New feature: add ability to find modify nodes flows. Oh, to find modified nodes and flows. That's search, isn't it? And switch node. And then I always put MQTT link TCP HTTP request inject switch. Okay, well that's our list as it stands. Now the muddle I always get myself into is I make that list too soon, and then I regenerate the list, and I've got to go and deduplicate stuff because it gets confused. But yeah, is it one of those link cool? Link? Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. 3001 beta 1 beta release. That's what this is. We're not there yet, but that's the list. So that's given me, effectively, I need to do the tour guide that's going to touch on a lot of those. Yeah, now I'm going to leave dynamic link. Okay. You want that to say link cool, dynamic link cool. That'll do. And then, okay, I also then like to alphabetize these to put them into some sort of order. But, and then you're going to tell me that S becomes before T. Yeah. And, yeah. And then I do the editorial work of putting these in some sort of order in terms of impact. So, let's see. Let's just... no, I'm not going to do that now. But I think junctions is a good headline type thing. And there we are. Step in progress towards 3.0 beta coming this week. Yeah, that's the goal. What we then start on next week, well, we'll see. There's still... if I go to, let's have a look, go to issues, milestones, 3.0, there's still a long list of stuff. If you ignore the ones with the pull request, can I filter this? No, I can't filter this list. There's still a lot of stuff we had sort of thrown into the possible backlog for 3.0, which we haven't got to, but I don't think anything was add copy value to the node property. We've done that. We have done that, haven't we? Copy node. No, what did I call? Oops. Go on. We just had it. We just had it. That was pull request. One of these, wasn't it? Copy node props, 3390. Link pull request. Why is that not finding it then? No. Okay. Copy node props. Adds copy value. Yeah. This is exactly what we're looking for. So let's link an issue from this repository. That's what we want to do. 3417. What? No results. I'm confused. Link an issue from this repository. We're in Node-RED. This is Node-RED. 3417. 3417. No results. Is it because this is merged? Is it 3390? No. Linkable. Oh, so confused. Fixed by 3417. No. 3390. There, copy node props. There, close issue. Progress. But the point I was trying to make before that got complicated is, yeah, like I said, there's still a bunch of stuff which we haven't looked at. That stuff could still come in a subsequent beta, but we're kind of getting into we want to stabilize it so that what the beta, the more changes that go in after the beta, we'll need another beta, frankly, because we want 3.0 to be nice and stable by the time the broader audience start playing with it. So, yeah. So that's where we're at. It's 9:10. I'm going to wrap it there. Hope that's interesting. This is a bit of a administrative, just chores rather than breaking new ground on new code, but that's what it takes. Thank you for joining me this week. I will be back. Will I be back next? So next Monday is another public holiday in the UK. Watch this space. I think I will stream, but it is a public holiday in the UK. So if I'm not here after a couple of minutes, a few minutes past 8 o'clock, don't wait up. But I will endeavour to tweet and I'll update the Twitch schedule if I bail at the last minute, but I'll try not to. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. As ever, have a great week. Look out for the beta. Please do grab it, test it, feedback, raise issues, or don't raise issues. Hopefully there are no issues to find. Haha. But with that, I'm going to sign off. Good night all. Until next time.